Hey, what's up, guys? I am here with Shawn, aka RGT85. What's up, man?
How's it going, dude?
Pretty good. Well, I'll start this off correctly. Trying to
PBR.
save a few bucks, so I get the PBR rather than the expensive stuff. In Manhattan, this shit is still like $10 a six-pack, though.
Jesus.
The good stuff's like 20. It's insane. But hey, whatever. Cheers.
Oh, cheers. I have my standard diet Dr. Pepper. Pretty much, if you cut me, this is what I bleed. Like, it's bad.
Funny, back in the day, my friends used to say that about Jägermeister and myself. They said I used to bleed Jaeger. But that was before the cool kids were drinking. I was just the fat, heavy metal guy that read in a magazine once that Metallica loved Jaeger. So I was like, oh, well, Metallica likes it. I have to. this exotic drink from Germany. And then fast forward to my 20s, and, you know, everybody's drinking it. And
right.
So I'm glad to have you on. It was actually kind of ironic because I learned about your videos through the weird, you know, the ROM cart gate or whatever you want to call it, flash cart gate or anything. And then I liked them. I like your content, so I figured I wanted to have you on to talk about yourself and tell your story and kind of introduce more people to you.
Cool, man. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. So how did you get started in all this stuff? I mean, like, were you always just an old gamer, or is it like something new?
I've been playing games, I mean, since I was probably 3. I remember playing an NES over at my uncle's house, which he ended up giving me one Christmas when he got a Genesis. And then I remember playing the Genesis. He had a Genesis Model 1 with Sonic, and I was just like, holy crap. And then Christmas of 93, I think it was, I ended up getting my own Genesis. It was the Model 2 pack-in with Sonic 2. And I remember I had another cool uncle who, like, I didn't really see very often. And he was like, here, I got you something. And it was Mortal Kombat. And I was like, yes. Oh. And my mom was like, no. And I had to take it back. And she made me take it back to KB Toys. And I had to get another game. And for some reason in my head, I was like, I want to try a flight simulator game with a flight simulator stick. So I got MiG Fighter Pilot 29 and like this terrible flight stick, and I never took the plane off the ground. And then like 6 months later, my mom felt bad and let me get Mortal Kombat again.
That is so freaking funny. That game was such a huge part of so many of our childhoods too. I even remember ABACABB, the blood code for the Genesis version.
Oh, of course, yeah.
You know, I actually had a really strict mom, and when that whole Senator Lieberman thing came out, I actually had, I think I had found a copy of Night Trap, you know, that somebody would sell, and I had Mortal Kombat. My mother was like, do you play those games? I'm like, yeah, look. And she started laughing when I did the Scorpion, or the Sub-Zero ripped the spine out. She's like, that's a cartoon. Is that what people are talking about? I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh, never mind. That's fine.
Yeah, she definitely like stopped caring like after a while. I wouldn't say stops caring, but just realized that I was able to differentiate, you know, a video game from real life. Like I wasn't out there trying to kill kids, you know, in the playground or whatever, which was evidently what those games were supposed to make us do.
Right. And it's funny too, because to this day, like, there'll be scenes in movies that aren't bloody or gory at all, but are very real, and like, you know, like torture scenes in war movies that I don't like watching at all. But to this day, I will still absolutely start giggling like a kid in the new Mortal Kombats when, like, you stab somebody and their body explodes into 1,000 pieces. Like, cartoon violence still cracks me up.
Exactly.
It's not real at all. No one ever gets the sense of that, you know?
Exactly. I mean, it's so over the top. Like, you're going to punch someone and then rip their heart out. Like, okay, no, you're not going to do that.
Yeah, it's totally cool to do that in Indiana Jones, but not in Mortal Kombat.
So. Yeah, because it's a ninja.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I played video games just growing up my entire life. And then I always wanted to sort of like do something with it, but I don't know. Like I wanted to make video games, and I was like, okay, I hate stuff, and I'm never going to be able to figure this out. So I remember when I was like 22, so probably like 10 years ago, I did like some very, very crappy YouTube videos. I did like 2, and I was like, yeah, whatever. And then I actually started writing when I was 27, I want to say, for a website. So this was back in 2013. Yeah.
What website?
It was a small website called gamingtruth.com. And the only reason I got involved with it was because I had a friend who was a writer for there. And the owner of the site lived in a town about 40 minutes away from us, who actually ended up becoming a very big Twitch streamer. And like he's like pretty well known now, too. His name's DJ Knight. I don't really follow the Twitch side of things, but I know he goes to like all these events, like he's red carpet and he has all these followers or whatever. But so I just got like linked up with them, and like I've always been good at writing. Like in school I was good at like writing and history, but I was bad at science and math, so I was like, well, I could do something with this. And then that website, it was actually fun. It was so small, but they had so many good connections with developers. I remember getting like Metal Gear Solid 3D on the 3DS, and like 3 copies of Resident Evil Revelations with all these extra goodies and stuff, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. And you know, I wasn't making any money. It was, you know, it was all for free, but the free games made it worthwhile. And unfortunately, that, you know, we all sort of started, you know, drifting apart and you know, working on other things. So I ended up leaving Gaming Truth, and I linked up with a website called NintendoEnthusiast.com. And pretty much I just started out, you know, bottom of the barrel. And then I was like, you know, probably in 8-9 months time, I'll be on top of this website, and it'll pretty much, you know, I'll be the main guy here. And that is what ended up happening. So I've been with them, you know, since 2014, like October 2014, just doing writing stuff and whatnot. And that's really been fun because, you know, I've been able to do a lot of things. Like we're on Metacritic on that site. So like Nintendo just like brown noses the hell out of us. Like literally every game that Nintendo releases arrives at my house. So it's like awesome.
That's very
like,
cool.
I actually got the SNES Classic that way. They sent it to me like a week ago. And so I've had it the whole time, and it's like, oh, this is great. So
is that your main job now, or is that your main hobby, I guess?
No, I mean, the writing thing, it's just a hobby, more of a, you know, just something to do. Like it's something fun. I do make a little bit of money off of it, but you know, it's nothing crazy. Like I still have the full-time gig or whatever, working. So I just don't have much time to do anything else. But
are you a writer by day as well, or just, you know, this is just your passion?
I'm a pharmacy technician.
Oh,
I count pills all day and help old people and hand out Viagra.
I dated one of those. She didn't look anything like you.
That's probably a good thing.
No offense, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a very woman-dominated profession, but like that was another thing. Like I was just 18, I needed a job. I got a job as a cashier in a pharmacy, and like 3 months into it, they had like 3 techs leave, and they were like, "Do you want to become a tech?" And I was like, "No." And they're like, "Why?" I was like, "It's too much responsibility." They're like, "I'd get a pay raise," and I was like, "I'm on board." So I pretty much, and there was actually a time period where I quit that, and I was an assistant manager at GameStop for like 8 months, but that was atrociously terrible. I mean, there were some cool aspects of it, but God, that company is so screwed in the head.
It's so funny that you say that, because I know people that, you know, they like games, but they're just retail managers. I know other people that love games and just wanted to be a part of it, and both sides of it have nothing good to say about GameStop at all. So,
yeah, I mean, I did it because I love games, and that actually, working there almost burns you out on games, because it's just like, my manager, he was a good guy, but he wasn't a good manager. And there were so many nights where, I mean, we would be in the store till like 1 or 2 in the morning working on stuff that we could have done, you know, hours ago, but he couldn't delegate stuff because he would bring in, you know, his modded Xbox, because the Xbox games were still coming out then. And we all had modded Xboxes, because he would do that. So we would bring our modded Xboxes to work and just put the disc in, burn the game to it, put the disc out. Like it was crazy. Like it was a bit of a wild west sort of situation there. Like especially with their return policy, you didn't have to have ID, you didn't have to have anything. All you needed was a signature. So it was, you know, there was some shady stuff that went down, but you know, nothing too crazy. But I actually ended up getting robbed. I was working a morning by myself, and this regular customer came in. There was like 2 other customers in the store, and he was like, "Hey, you know, I'm thinking about getting this. I think he was getting an Xbox 360, and of course, we kept all the systems in the back. So I was like, okay. So I ran to the back to grab a 360, Oh no, actually, it wasn't him that asked for it. It was another customer who was asking for a 360. This other guy would just bring in stuff to trade all the time, and it was always loose stuff. I always assumed that he was just like robbing his friends or something, but it was just like whatever. And so I ran to the back, got the 360 for the person, and then he ended up leaving. He was like, "Yeah, I'll catch you later. I got to go do some stuff." I was like, "Okay." So he came back later in the day, and he had a bunch of games, and so traded him in all cash. You know, he always did cash. I was like, "All right, whatever." I never saw the dude buy a game. And then I went home after my shift was over, and I got a call, and they were like, "You need to come back to the store, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Okay, whatever." And so I go up there, and what ended up happening was we didn't have cameras in the store at the time. All of the gutted games, which is just like the actual discs, were literally right underneath the cash register. So what he did was he reached around the cash register and grabbed a stack of PS2 games, and then just walked out of the store, got rid of the little yellow slips they were in, and then came back. And I didn't notice it because no one was really buying PS2 games that day. So unless I'm looking through the games, you know, to figure out what's out there and what people are buying, you're never going to notice it. And so they were like, "Well, did you know him? Like, is he stealing games and you're getting money from him?" I'm like, "Dude, come on." I was like,
I love how they jump right to that conclusion. Like, there's no gray area in between. It's got to be that you're in on it. That sucks.
Yeah, and so my manager, it was a different manager who was much better. He was like, "You know, they want to fire you. I'm not going to let them fire you, but we're going to have to take your keys. You're going to have to go to part-time." And I was just like, "No, I'm good. I'll see y'all later." And yeah, so I ended up selling a bunch of games just to stay afloat, and then I went back to pharmacy tech. But as far as the YouTube stuff goes, we're just going all over the place.
No, I love stuff like this. You know, everybody's got a good story, and stuff like that. Like, it's a great story, but that just pisses me off, man. It doesn't matter what job you're working. When something like that happens, it's just, I hate when, you know, it's like dealing with the cops. You know, they always just jump to that extra conclusion.
Yes.
It's like, ugh.
And I've learned that if you work for corporations, it's like that, because I worked for Rite Aid and I worked for GameStop, and then I went to an independent pharmacy, and I was like, "Holy shit! Like, where has this been? Why haven't I been doing this the whole time?" Like, they don't care. Like, you have a problem, you're standing next to the person you need to talk to. Like, you don't have to go through a chain of command or anything. It's so much better. But so Nintendo Enthusiast had a YouTube channel. And I noticed it, and I was like, "What are we doing with this? We're not doing anything with this." And they're like, "I don't know." And I was like, "Look, we got 400 subs. Okay, this is a lot of subs. 400 subscribers. I want to make a show on here." And they're like, "Okay. Have you ever made a show before?" "No." "Do you have any equipment?" "No." "Well, what are you gonna do?" "I'm gonna get a webcam, and I'm gonna do a weekly review show of news." And they're like, "Okay, we'll give it a try." And right around that same time, the site owner lives in Canada. He met up with another guy, and who had a little film background. And so right around the same time, we were working on an article on the website, because the Wii U obviously had no games. So we were like literally just, you know, clawing and scratching to get content up on the site, because, you know, it was Nintendo Enthusiast, and there was nothing to talk about. So we ended up doing this thing called the 120 upcoming Wii U indie games. And so it was like a group of like 4 of us. We all wrote the article. It ended up doing very well. It got us a ton of traffic. So this other guy that he met was like, "Hey, I want to do a video series on this, and I'll spotlight the games or whatever." And I'm like, "Okay, you know, whatever. A little friendly competition." So I upload my little shitty show that has 480p. My audio is terrible. I'm reading a script, and you know, it's just so awkward. And this dude comes along with a fucking $3,000 camera, filming at A&C Games in Toronto, Canada, which is a beautiful backdrop. And he's got all this production and lights and music and stuff, and I'm like, "This motherfucker, he's making me look like shit." And like, for the longest time, I hated him so much. His name is Jason, but we're actually very good friends now, of course. But that was sort of my entry into the world of videos. I have no video background. I don't know what the hell I was doing. I used Windows Movie Maker like for years. Like, I didn't. My
first like 10, 15 podcasts were Windows Movie Maker.
Like, I had no idea what I was doing, and it was funny because another website started a weekly show similar to mine, and my parents happened to be in town, and I was watching it, and my dad was like, "Who's this guy?" I was like, "Oh, he's from another website." He's like, "Oh, he's doing the same thing you're doing." I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "What's the screen behind him? What's going on there?" I was like, oh, that's a green screen. You got a green screen? I'm like, no. He was like, well, you're getting a green screen. This guy can do better than you. And so like he ended up buying me a green screen and like a lighting rig and stuff and all this stuff. And like, so I was like, well, now I have a green screen. I kind of got to learn how to edit, you know, something. So I got a program called Cyberlink Power Director 12.0, which is what I still use today. And I just went along. I learned as I went along. And so Nintendo Enthusiast was doing very well, but I tried to do retro stuff on there, and it never did well. And I didn't really let it bother me. It was just kind of like, you know, whatever. But I was like, hey, I want to do like something about Sega once in a while. Can I do that? And Jason was like, well, it really makes sense. And I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. And he was like, well, why don't you just make, you know, your own personal side channel? You know, everyone else has one. I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. You know, I'll just do whatever with it. And I didn't expect it to, you know, go so well, but yeah, it's gone very well, and you know it's crazy just how much it's grown, and like now I have like twice the subscribers that Nintendo Enthusiast has, and like just it's really weird how it just exploded.
It's like Ozzy leaving Sabbath.
Yes, yes.
So
and I mean, I still do videos over there, but it's more just reviews. I'll do, you know, video reviews on there and stuff. And we do a weekly podcast on there too, but I've definitely shifted focus to my own brand or whatever.
So what's RGT85? I'm going to go out on a limb and say 85 is probably when you were born.
85 is when I was born. The channel was originally going to be called Retro Gaming News 85. And then at the last second, I was like, no, I don't like that. I'll make it Retro Gaming Tube 85. And I remember I did a podcast when I had like 200 subs with Rerez and Gilly the Kid, who's a buddy of mine. And Gilly was like, you're gonna hate your name. I was like, why? He's like, it's too long. Nobody's gonna like it. It's too long. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And then as time kind of went on, like I started talking about, you know, I got a PS4, so I wanted to talk about PS4 stuff. And I was like, you know, this retro gaming tube isn't really working out. I was like, well, let's change it to RGT85. And then one day I was just like, okay, we're changing it. Bada boom, and that was it. So it's nothing really that interesting.
No, it makes sense. And when did you actually start your own channel? So not the ones the 480p videos, like the actual RGT channel when it was Retro Gaming Tube.
May 2015.
All right, so actually you grew really quickly then. Congratulations, that's pretty awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it definitely blew up like way faster than I expected. And I never when I set out to do the channel, like I never had any like real aspirations for it. Like I just wanted to do something, and I was good friends with Gamester81, and I was like, hey, you know, I'm starting my own little side channel. You know, I'd love to be, you know, able to post onto your website, you know, in a couple months with the channel gets a little following. And he was just like, no, dude, get on it right now. Get on it right now. We'll help. We'll get that built up for you. So he was super cool in that. And like, I don't know, like you just learn. I just took like what I learned from Nintendo Enthusiast and just sort of started applying it to this. And I was able to, you know, like there's a couple videos I did for Nintendo Enthusiasts where they were like, oh, you know, you can't say that, you can't do this, you know, you gotta change that. And I think just being able to do whatever I want whenever I want, and it's all reflective of me, as opposed to, you know, being on a conglomerate channel where, you know, your opinion is your opinion, but it also kind of reflects on the website, so you can't really do this or say this. I like having that freedom where I can just, you know, it's just me, and, you know, whether it's good or bad, it all just falls on me, and I actually prefer that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more for both sides of it, because, you know, damn the man, nobody wants to be told what to do, but the other side of it is, you know, I've made a whole bunch of mistakes, and I've said wrong things, and the most common thing is some of the stuff I've said has been misinterpreted, and I have no problem looking in the camera and be like, yeah, I screwed up, but I also have no problem looking in the camera and be like, no, I didn't screw up at all. That was actually completely right, and I don't really care who's offended. So that's right. I don't think if I was partnered up with like a, you know, a main corporation, that would never fly. So, and I understand too. I completely get the other side of that, but the freedom to just, you know, especially when you really, I don't want to sound super cheesy, but when you stay true to what you believe in, it's great just to be able to just say how you feel, and it's whatever. If you're wrong, you're right, it doesn't matter. So you don't get that freedom when you have to answer to somebody else, you know?
Right. And I mean, I shouldn't make it sound like you know, Nintendo enthusiast is like, you know, like the man or whatever. It's definitely not a Rite Aid or a GameStop. Like, you know, they all understand like where I'm coming from, what I'm doing. They don't want to restrict they don't want to restrict RGT85. They want to use me to use myself to help them with other stuff. They just we actually just bought Destructoid a couple months ago. So I'm helping out with some back end stuff there as far as like somehow some way I got really good at SEO and tagging. And like I don't know how I did it, but like I just started noticing like my tags on my videos were really good, and I sort of just developed this system. And so like Destructoid's YouTube channel has like 120 something thousand subs, but like for the past year they haven't done like any real content, you know, consistent content or interesting content. So I was like, so Jason, who's now he's moved away from content creation. He's actually full-time office job, more so, you know, doing business end stuff. He'll just be like, yo, I'm about to put this video up on Destructoid, watch it, tag it, and then see if you could do something with it. I'm like, okay. And like, you know, sort of breathing life back into this channel that used to be huge and whatnot. So it's fun. And I don't do it. You don't see me do anything on Destructoid, but I'm sort of in the back end stuff and, you know, whatnot. And yeah, like there's a bunch of opportunities coming up through that website. And I mean, I stick with it because I like all those guys, and you know, it's a little extra income, and you know, you get a lot of review stuff, so that's always cool too.
Yeah. The SEO stuff still baffles me because when I first started the site, I got like 3 months into it, and I was just trying to read some guides, and I had it all set, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I Googled NES RGB or Super Nintendo RGB, and my site was like the first one that came up. And I happened to be at a party that weekend, and a couple of friends, like, SEO is their job. They get paid way more than me, and that's their entire focus. And I was telling them the story, like, I don't even really know what I did. And they asked me how I did it, and I explained to them how I set my website up, and they said, that's all wrong. You should be kicked out. You know, that Google doesn't search like that. I'm like, well, why am I on the top of searches then? They said, well, you know, you're not supposed to put keywords, you're supposed to put descriptions. So I have these guys get paid a lot of money to do this, and so obviously they're right, but apparently I did everything wrong for RetroRGB.com, and I'm high up in the hits, so I don't.
That's all that matters. That. See, I can't do any sort of, like, they try to translate my YouTube SEO into website SEO, and I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. But like YouTube SEO, like I can nail that stuff, and like it's what it is on YouTube. It's just repetition. You want to sound like a broken record. You want your title, your description, and your tags to have the same words over and over and over again, backwards, forwards, reverse them, and like it just works. It just works.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk to you about a bunch of your videos, but I wanted to specifically ask you this question and not other people because, number one, you seem like you have a great sense of humor and you're honest about stuff, but two, because I feel like you're not going to take this the wrong way. You're going to take it exactly as I'm saying it. But I see a lot of your content, like I just watched, like 5 minutes ago, I just watched the Star Fox 2 thing, the one that you just put out today. And that to me is like a great straightforward video. That's like, hey, you know, for anybody that follows me, here's an update about Star Fox 2. And by the way, this NES Classic is getting, it's already been jailbroken. A hack will be out eventually. And you show the steps from when you went through the NES Classic. Stuff like that to me is like, that's an obvious win right there. You know, you inform the people that follow you. It's a cool video. But then I always see things like on everybody's channel, like top 10 lists and stuff like that. And those are the things that always kind of crack me up because so many people nowadays describe themselves as nerds because that's the cool thing to do. But I actually am. I was always the fat dude that drank beer, listened to heavy metal, and played Super Metroid. So I don't know what the cool kids are doing. So the top 10 list thing to me, like, I never understood where that came from. Because every person has their own tastes, right? So if my cousin Scott says, "Hey Bob, you'd like this game," he knows what games I hate. I've known him since we were little kids. So I'm going to listen to that. And I guess when you start following people on YouTube, you start to realize who has similar tastes or not. So I like, where does the top 10 thing come from? Like, how do you decide when to do the videos that are very just straightforward, and I mean like the one you just posted, and how do you, like, can you just give some insight into that? And obviously I mean this respectfully, I'm certainly not slinging mud or anything, I'm just really curious as to how this all works.
So like top 10 videos, I don't do too many of those. I've done a couple, and honestly, I like to do stuff that sort of works. And like, here's a great example. So I did a video. I was watching GameSack one night, and they do the hardware pushers episode where they do just, you know, across all the consoles, what games they feel, you know, push the hardware, you know, whether graphically, audio wise, whatever. And I thought, you know, that'd be cool if, you know, I did it like by system. And, you know, I did one on the NES because I'm pretty familiar with the NES, and I did that video. It got like 5,000 views in like 2 weeks, and then it just sort of sputtered out. And I was like, okay, that's cool. That took a lot of time to make, so I'm not really going to focus on those for a little while. And all of a sudden, one night, I was taking a nap, and I woke up, and that video had 20,000 views, and I was like, huh. And then the next morning it had 35,000 views, and I'm like, huh. And now that video has over like 150,000 views, and I'm like, huh, I need to make another one of these. So like I was like, let me think of a system. I was like, okay, Saturn. I know the Saturn well. So I did one on the Saturn. Same sort of thing. You know, it started out slow, and then it just grew overnight. So those videos seem to do very well for me. Like top 10 videos, they don't do really well for me. Sometimes I don't know, like my video process is very, very random. Like I usually just come up with an idea while I'm like driving home, and I'm like, do I feel like filming tonight? Okay, what do I want to film? And I like long-term projects like hardware pushers, top 10 lists. I do a couple hidden gems stuff on there. I mean, everyone pretty much does them. I think it's hard. I think it's harder to do things like top 10s and hidden gems when your channel is smaller, because people don't really, you know, identify with you. They don't really know like what you like and what you're about. But as time goes on, and they can sort of see like the sort of stuff you sort of gravitate to, it makes them, you know, more interested in what games you really like and what games you don't like, and why you like these games and why you don't like these games. I think if you just, you know, come out. But there's also the whole personality aspect. My channel is not based on well-edited stuff or, you know, or, you know, technical knowledge or stuff. It's just raw. Like it's just what I think about a game, and, you know, what I know about it. And so people are able to identify with a person more so than something like a Watch Mojo, which is like, you know, a nameless entity that just you know, reads a script. So I think that sort of plays a part into it, you know, personality wise. But yeah, my videos, it's just like, I don't know. Like, I don't know why I did that video last night. I was just like, well, you know, that's pretty interesting. You know, and when you see people talking about stuff on Facebook a lot, like, or social media, Twitter and stuff, it's like, okay, well, people are obviously interested in this. If I can, you know, flesh out a video on it, I should probably do it. And then one of the things I like, though, is I have a Patreon, and one of the reward tiers is like people can pick what video they want me to make. So that's always fun, because then, you know, at least one person really wants to see that video, and then that makes it worthwhile. And sometimes on the Facebook page, I'll do like an Ask RGT85, and I'll just say, hey, you know, hit me with, you know, what you want me to talk about. I'll pick one and I'll film a video on it. So, you know, it's very random. I don't know. But I do like doing new stuff. And the funny thing is like, I've had like people that are like acquaintances, I wouldn't say friends, acquaintances, like go after me for doing stuff about news. Like, oh, you know, nobody cares about news. Everyone does it. It's cheap clicks, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you do realize, like, you can go to, if you use my Gmail account that is tied into my YouTube, it's RetroGamingNews85@gmail.com. Like, that was the whole intention of this channel originally. Like, I just like to talk about, like, new retro projects and, you know, stuff like when the Coleco Chameleon was coming out and all that stuff and well, supposedly coming out. And like, I don't know, like my first video series was Week in Review on Nintendo Enthusiast talking about the news. Like, if everyone could do it, then everyone should be doing it. Everyone should be getting hundreds of thousands of views. Like, people are just able to identify with you. I once had a really long argument like a couple months ago with an acquaintance of mine about it, and it was really bizarre. I was just like, okay, whatever, dude.
Yeah, see, but I mean, now once again, like I don't like I'm not into whatever the trends are, but to me that's the opposite. To me that makes the most sense. You know, when anybody I follow posts something topical that has to do with something that's going on right now, that to me there's no question in my mind. It's like, okay, well I got a bunch of followers that like to hear what I have to say, so let's talk about it. And for me, I mean, the reason I even started my podcast, because I didn't want to do anything on YouTube. I didn't think anybody would care. The thing for me was that so many questions that I got emailed to me had to do with things that if people were just in the loop, I wouldn't have to answer the emails. And I don't want to I've answered almost every email I've gotten. Some, even some of the ones that weren't so nice, but it's just getting a little overwhelming. And doing the news, like the thank you emails I've gotten, like that's totally what keeps me going, because people are like, oh my god, I had no idea that I could do this if I didn't listen to your weekly thing. So mine's obviously on a much smaller scale, but it's still something that I feel is like important to anybody that gives a shit. So it's if you don't care, obviously it's pointless. But so yeah, well, that's, I guess maybe the new stuff is more important to me, just because being in the loop helps, you know.
Well, it also, I mean, like doing the new stuff, you know, because I do a lot of stuff on, you know, Switch stuff, and people are like, you do Switch stuff because it's popular. And it's like, no, I do Switch stuff because I have the console. I play the console a lot. I think it's really interesting. I like checking games out for it. And what's interesting about the Switch stuff is the Switch stuff, you tend to get a lot of younger viewers and newer viewers with Switch stuff. And like, you know, some of the younger viewers, like I've had them, you know, write me letters. I had this, you know, 12-year-old kid who saw my Friday the 13th review for PS4, and like he's like, oh, you know, thank you. So he wrote me a actual letter. He was like, oh, thank you so much. You know, your channel introduced me to old video games and retro games. Now I'm checking all these games with my dad and stuff. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's awesome. You know, that's cool. And like I remember at Too Many Games, I was talking to two people at once, and it was like the perfect split. The one guy only wanted to talk to me about Switch stuff. The other guy only wanted to talk to me about retro stuff. And so I'm just like blending the two together, and I'm like, yeah, you know, the retro stuff is pretty good on the Switch. You know, there's Blaster Master Zero and stuff like that. I mean, it's just interesting how you attract like different types of people with different types of content, and like that's something I like. It's always going to be video game related, but you never know what I'm going to talk about next. It could be, you know, I might just review an NES game if I want to. I might, you know, review a new Switch game. I might do a hidden gems list. Like, I like to keep it open, and I like to keep it just, you know, people guessing.
And you just, like you said, you just driving home, and whatever idea pops in your mind is usually the next video that you do, or do you have like a backup list of like things that you want to work on? Because I have a list that's like 1,000 pages long of shit I want to get to eventually. But I mean,
like there's a couple things I want to do that like are in the back of my mind. Like I recently was given a Xbox One S and a couple games from a viewer of the show, which is absolute insanity. And so I want to do something with the Xbox One S, even though I'm completely late on the bandwagon. I had another viewer of the show. This is insane. So the past month, I had one viewer sent me an Xbox One S and like 4 games and a Japanese 3DS with a bunch of games just to my P.O. box, completely random, in this huge crate. And I was like, oh my God, this is insane. And then I went to the P.O. box, and I had a couple packages there. And I had this one package just sitting there, and the guy messaged me on Facebook, and he was like, hey, I sent you a package in a black shoebox. Did you get it? I was like, yeah, I'm going to film, you know, I do a show called What's in the Box, where people can, you know, send me stuff, and like I literally just open it on camera. So you get my actual, you know, natural reaction. And like some people are like, oh, you're just begging people to send stuff to your P.O. box. I'm like, no, it's literally, you know, I literally got a P.O. box because people said they wanted to, you know, send me a token of, you know, appreciation or whatever, or send me a T-shirt, or, you know, companies want to send me something and I don't want them to have my home address.
Right.
So I had like a bunch of packages because I usually wait like, a couple weeks to stockpile them, so it's actually like a lengthy episode. And I got to that black shoebox and I opened it, and I literally had 3 more packages I was going to open, and I had to stop the video. I got a copy, complete in box, of Dragon Force on the Saturn and Panzer Dragoon Saga on the Saturn. And
Wow.
the letter was, it was that guy. He was like, "Hey, my name's Milton. I was cleaning out my closet, and I found these 2 games. I know you've talked about wanting these games before, but you didn't own them. I don't think I'm going to buy a Saturn, so you can have them. There's like a $40 price sticker on the Panzer Dragoon Saga." And he was like, "It'd be cool if you could do a review on this game." And I'm like, "Okay, so I need to review this game." So I've been playing that a lot the past couple days. I'll probably end up playing it some more tonight. But yeah, like, I don't know what to say in situations like that. Like, I'm just like, like, it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, I just I know this is such a weird thing to say. I hope nobody takes this the wrong way, but I take negative criticism better than positive criticism. If somebody's
Same.
like, Bob, I think you sound like a dick. You were mumbling at the last one, and you said the wrong words. It's like, all right, cool. I'll take a deep breath before I speak. I'll try to enunciate a little bit better. But when people are like, hey, man, thanks so much. I really appreciate that. You pointed me in the right direction. I'm just like, cool, okay. Like, I don't understand. I don't know what to do in those. I'm just like, thank you, awesome. So yeah, that's a great story. That's hysterical. But,
Yeah, just yeah,
well,
yeah.
did you do a review of the game?
I just got it. Like, I just opened the package like 4 nights ago, and it's funny because my buddy Wood, who has a channel named Beat 'em Ups, we were talking about his PO box, and he was like, all I've gotten recently was a letter from Costa Rica from someone who watched the show. It was a nice letter, though. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then when I got that Xbox One, I called him. I was like, dude, you're never going to guess what I got. And he's like, what? No fucking way. And then like 3 nights ago, I called him up. I was like, dude, you're never going to guess what I got. He's like, you're a piece of shit. What did you get now? And I showed him, and he was just like, I was like, dude, I don't know why. It's crazy. I don't deserve this, but I mean, I'm not going to say no.
Right. Well, I mean, no, but that's what I mean. That's another hard thing about taking. That's positive response, right? It's just like, of course, for you to refuse it would be disrespectful, and it's a really nice gesture, and it's just, I don't know. That's all. Everything about that's awesome. So
Yeah, like it's crazy, dude. I don't expect any. I mean, if you watch a video, like, awesome. You've done You've done exactly what I intended you to do. Anything beyond that, Patreon donations during, live game streams, sending stuff to the PO box, like, that's all above and beyond, any expectations. I don't expect anyone to do any of that stuff. So whenever they do it, it's just like, holy crap, this is awesome. And I freak out. People sent me like gag gifts, like a glitter bomb or something. I once got like a Pokemon card. I'm just like, yeah, cool. Like, if it's something free, like, I don't care, how big or how small it is, or even if it's just a letter. It's like, you took time out of your life to send me something for some reason. Just some random guy talking about video games on YouTube. Like,
I've had like 3-sentence emails that literally put a smile on my face for the whole rest of the day. So I totally get it. Yeah, it's funny, though, whenever you do anything in the public eye, anything, whether you have 100 subscribers or 100 million subscribers, the majority of the people that are happy with your work just enjoy it and go about their day. And that was one of the things I tried to explain. I've been in a bunch of bands before, and one of them got to play, 2 of them got to play some pretty big shows. And afterwards, there was one band member that was like, well, what are people going to say? What are they going to post on Facebook? It's just like, you can't approach things that way. As long as you're happy with your own results, happy enough, I don't know, no one's ever really happy with what they do. Like, you just have to understand that the loudest voices are not the majority.
Right.
You got, you have videos with a shitload of views on them. So you got a video with 20,000 views, you don't have 20,000 comments. That probably means 18,000 people walked away from that going, awesome video, and then moved along.
Exactly.
So you gotta, it's any criticism's good or bad. I'm very careful about, just because I've been on both sides of that before. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I just passed 7 million views channel views the other day, and it's like,
Congrats,
well, I don't have 7. Thank you. I was like, I don't have 7 million comments. I don't have 7 million subscribers. Like, what, did I do something wrong? Like, what didn't you like? Like, what would have made you stick around? But you know, it's just the nature of the beast. Like, you never know. You never know what's gonna resonate with someone, and you know, it's weird. It's crazy though. It's fun.
So I gotta ask, and I hope this doesn't bore any listeners that don't do any kind of video content, but like, do you, what's your setup in your actual video like? Just a short thing, you don't have to go into detail, because for me, like, I have my setup at home for when I need to be at home. Right now, I need to be vertical. My back's still all messed up. But I also have, like, my video cameras just where my office are. So that, my only approach to things is I usually do an unbelievable amount of testing and research before any kind of, like, anything technical related. I really dig deep into it. So by the time I get to actually shoot the video, I'm a million hours into it and really exhausted. And then I just flip on the camera, hit record, and then kind of edit in all my findings. And a lot of the times it's a little frustrating because you'll do, 3 or 4 days worth of work over the course of a month, and then you have a 5-minute video to show for it.
Right.
But like, my actual production's garbage. And I'm still working on it. I just, I just want to make sure that the content's there. But like, do you have a setup where you could just go home and flick a switch? Do you have do you have to go through a process where you build up your your video every time you go to record one? Do you have to like set up your camera and everything? I'm always curious how people do that.
I got the master bedroom in my house is the game room, and that's pretty much the backdrop for most of my videos. Sometimes I have to do green screen stuff, but most of my videos I just use that as the backdrop because people are always like, "Oh, what's that game? What's that game?" It's a conversation starter.
So that's actually being filmed. That's not you in front of a green screen with a video of your room. That's just you in that room while you're filming.
Yep, I have a chair that I put in the corner there. I have 2 light thingies. I don't know the technical term. They're like the fluorescent with the little umbrella looking thing or whatever. I have a Canon RF 500 camcorder that just happens to shoot 1080 60 frames, so I just use that. I have a $20 no name lapel mic. I have a lens. I bought a lens that's just kind of a wider angle so it shows more of the stuff behind me. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I used to script a lot of stuff. If I do voiceover, I don't know, and even nowadays, like, honestly, when I do a video, I sit down and I shoot the video. Like, I do it in one take. I don't script. I don't do anything. If I can't do the video in like one take, I feel like I'm just not ready to talk about the subject, or I don't know enough about the subject, or, something's stopping me. Like, there's been times where I've been talking for like 10 minutes straight. I'll flub over a word and I'll scratch the whole thing and start fresh again. Like, I cannot stand having, I cannot stand like having to splice things. And like, when you're watching a video and people are like,
it makes me nauseous. It literally, like, it makes me dizzy as if I was spinning in circles. So many people do that too. And
they do it for like in like sentences, like mid-sentence, like, "Hey there, I'm talking about the NES today," and it's like, why are you? Stop it! Like, no, I used to script things, and now, like, maybe if I'm doing like a hidden gems thing, or something where it's 90% gameplay and it's just me talking over it, it's a little bit easier to sort of script it. Just record the audio for it and then sync it up with the video portions. But as far as if you see me sitting there in front of my games, like, that's no script, no nothing. I turn the lights on, turn the camera on, make sure the mic is on, and I just go.
So I've tried writing scripts for mine, and it fails miserably. The best thing for me, because everybody's different, is, especially, I'm lucky with a weekly podcast that every segment I shoot in pieces. So if I screw up a 4-minute segment, I just waste 4 minutes. I don't waste hours or anything. But for me, it's always better if I just talk, and then I play it back, and I go, I didn't really explain that right, and do it again. But for some of the longer ones, it takes forever. But I just, and this is just an opinion, but I just feel like that anytime there's a video that's shot start to finish, regardless if there's cuts or not, regardless if it's scripted, if I'm watching something on YouTube, especially from people that are, there are some people with a ton of followers and just really expensive productions where it's just like you said, 4 words into a sentence, it's the cuts and everything. It drives me crazy. I can't understand how people wouldn't, especially if you're getting that many views and that many hits. Why wouldn't you just take the time to make the content a little bit better? So
yeah, and I mean, I always wanted, my philosophy with doing YouTube stuff was just always like, do the most with the least. Like, there's no point, at the time, if you're getting like 50 to 100 views, I mean, that's still great. There's still 50 to 100 people. And a lot of people seem to lose sight of that. Like, they say, oh, I only have 100 subscribers. It's like, okay, you have 100 people who put stock into what you say, who said, you know what, I watched this person's video and I want to know more about them and I want to see more from them. So like, I never understand why people get down on that. But
me neither. If you were standing someplace and 100 people were listening to you talk, how would you feel about that? There's no difference. You should take that very seriously. So
exactly. So, but yeah, like I was always just a proponent of do the most with as little as you can. And I mean, because I never was, I never was really into editing, and I didn't know how to edit, and I didn't know different stuff about, apertures and cameras and lenses and lighting and stuff like that. My whole thing was, if I can't get by on my personality, I probably won't be able to make videos, or, I'll always be sort of stagnant. Like, my whole setup now is still only, I mean, if I take the camera, the lenses, the lapel mic, and the lights, that's like $500. And like, I know people who put like thousands of dollars into their filming equipment, and it's just like, why? Like, unless that's what you really want to do, like you really want to have high quality, top of the line stuff. Like, I don't know. I would rather build an audience and then improve as I go along than, just go balls in, spend all this money and then you're just disappointed because you didn't get the results that you wanted.
Yeah, to be honest, the only reason I don't have a dedicated green screen setup is just because of where I live. I mean, I live in Manhattan now, so it's like, a 2x2 closet's $5,000 a month. So
right.
That's the only reason I have pop-up screens and I use webcams and stuff. But if I ever get back to the burbs or anything, I'll definitely just be able to have a little corner with a green screen and I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, my green screen is in, this is the second biggest bedroom, this is the office, and then the third bedroom, which is the smallest, is the actual bedroom. But I have a sweet freaking living arrangement here. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, my rent is so cheap, and the lady wants to sell me the house for like literally half of what it's actually worth because she just wants to get rid of it. And like, it's such a good setup. So
man, go for it.
Yeah.
And you're North Carolina?
North Carolina, yeah.
How did you deal with the hurricane? Were you okay? Because I know you had to cancel the appearance in Jersey.
Dude, it didn't even hit here. The next day, so they canceled everything, all my travel stuff, on Thursday at 4:30 p.m. because it was supposed to shift right up into North Carolina. On Friday, they readjusted their calculations, and they were like, oh, it's not going to hit North Carolina. And I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me.
That cracks me up.
Yeah, so
you do have another appearance coming up soon, though, right? You're coming to Retro World Expo, and this time it's Hartford, Connecticut, not in Wallingford, right?
Yep, it's there at the Hartford Civic Center, which kind of sucks because Wallingford would have been closer to my grandma's house. So now I have to wake up a little earlier to head out there. But yeah, old stomping grounds. I was born in Bridgeport, lived in Monroe. That's where my grandma still lives. Got family in Shelton. Still have family in Bridgeport. Yeah.
I grew up right off of Wood Ave in Bridgeport. So
okay, I was Charles Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. That is such a coincidence. Wes from Second Opinion Games grew up in Waterbury, and he has a podcast, and he a lot of people, will jokingly be like, oh, you're from Connecticut, like, how many Mercedes do you have? And it's like, that's not really how it worked in Bridgeport at all.
No, not at all. Yeah, Bridgeport. We lived on Charles Street. It was me and my mom. And like, dude, that was so sketchy. I remember we came home from I came home from school one day, and she had like picked me up, and like I remember walking into the kitchen, and there's just this dude just decked out in all black, and I was like, hello, and he just like runs out the back door, and she's like, get away from him, we're getting robbed, and it was just like
Whoa.
the car was getting robbed. Yeah, like our car, like our neighbors used to like steal our car. My mom got a new Hyundai XL, and like I want to say it was like 89 or 90. And that car got robbed no less than 10 times. I remember so many times having to go to like the repo place or the junkyard or stuff and try to see if it was salvageable. It was just, Bridgeport's an interesting place. It's a little better nowadays, I hear, but
Yeah, I think they cleaned it up a lot. But I was a kid when I lived there, and it was just, I mean, there were so many weird nights. Like, there was some random guy banged on the door. I think I was like 8 years old or something, and he's like, oh, I know Mary. Can you let me in? I know Mary. And my grandmother, some mustache Romanian lady, was just like, no, get out, get out. And I'm like, Grandma, but he knows Mary. Who's Mary? And she's like, I don't know, get out of here.
Yeah, see, we're Italian, so like, I remember we moved out of there. And my mom got remarried, and we lived in like one of those houses where it was like 3 levels. So on the bottom level was my grandma's sister, who was like probably 60 at the time, just this short little crazy Italian lady. We lived in the middle level, and then on the top level was my grandma's sister's daughter and her family. So it was just like, we had Portuguese people live next door to us. They had all these chickens and stuff. It was Bridgeport. It was just, it's a very interesting melting pot of different types of people. Like it's amazing.
Yeah, I remember visiting a friend on East Main Street one time. I had a 79 Camaro that was just as big of a piece of shit as could possibly be, where it still actually moved forward. And like, I'm going down, I'm blasting Megadeth, and I pull into my friend's house, and they're talking about the guy that just got robbed, like, down the street. And I was like, oh man, should I tone it down? And he's like, no, they're not looking to rob you. What do you have? A 79 Camaro? No. They're looking for the dude with a Honda with the tints and, the blacked out taillights and the rims. You're fine. You can just leave your windows down and drive home as slow as you want. So yeah,
I haven't been to Bridgeport in a while though. My time is very limited. So like I'm making it a family trip. My mom lives in Florida. I live in North Carolina around no one, and all the family's in Connecticut. So I was like, Ma, we got to go to Connecticut. I can't go up there by myself because they're crazy. You have to go up there. You have to be the buffer, and you have to, set up everything. And she's like, all right, whatever. And so I get up there Thursday. I'm taking the train. My cousin's husband is picking me up from Penn Station, driving me into Connecticut, and then Friday my uncle is giving me a mysterious vehicle. Like the whole time I've been bitching, I'm like, I need a vehicle while I'm up there. If I have to rent a vehicle, that's fine. I'd rather not, but just let me know. My grandma's like, no, you're not getting a vehicle. Wherever you need to go, I'll take you, or James will take you, or Grandpa will take you. I'm like, I'm 32. I can navigate by myself. I think I got this. No. So my uncle all of a sudden tells my mom, he's like, yeah, the one who got me into video games. He's like, yeah, I got a car you could borrow. She was like, what car? You have your SUV and your wife has whatever. He's like, oh no, I got a third car. And she's like, a third car? Where is it? I've never seen it before. Oh, I keep it at a friend's house.
Yeah, he's taking the license plate off of one of his main cars and putting it on that for you. Good luck.
So I just have some random Honda Accord. So Friday, I'm gonna spend some time with the family. I'm gonna go over to Retro Games Plus over in Orange, which is a store there. I know the manager,
Love
Russ
those stores. Chris is such a good guy. He helped me out so much when my website started. I think he's got 3 now: Norwalk, Orange, and the one on the Berlin Turnpike.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Orange one I think is the biggest, so that's definitely the store to go to, by the way.
Yeah, and my grandma lives in Monroe, so I'll be staying in Monroe, so it's like 15, 20 miles away. And then Saturday, drive up in the morning, go up to Hartford, spend the day up there, at the event, drive home. Sunday's family day, Monday I go home. So it's just like, fuck. I took like a Tuesday and Wednesday off of work, and they're like, well, when do you get home? Monday night. Like, why are you taking off Tuesday and Wednesday? I was like, because I need a vacation. Why aren't you going to see your family? I was like, this is not a vacation. This is a nightmare. Like, it's all constant eating and food and Italian music and Frank Sinatra. Like, I once went up to Connecticut, and my dad and my uncle picked me up from Penn Station. My train was late because I hate flying, and my train was late. I didn't get in till midnight. We ended up stopping at Yonkers. At the casino there. We gambled I got freaking hammered. It was like 2:30 in the morning. And so we're driving to grandma's house. And so my dad's like, look, I know you're pretty drunk right now. You just try being quiet, just go in your room, talk to her in the morning. I'm like, okay. We get to the house at 2:30 in the morning, and literally I'm like, why is there a light on in the kitchen?
She's got a full meal prepared, doesn't she?
Jesus Christ. We got some chicken. We got the pasta. What do you want to eat? Look at you. You haven't eaten in a week. You're too skinny. Sit down. I'm like, why are you up at 2:30 in the morning? Go to bed. Stop cooking. And then at 5 in the morning, same thing. Oh, wake up. You want some food? I got the pizza free, the bacala. It's like, Jesus Christ.
That's awesome. That's so funny. Whenever you have any ethnic American families, it's the same story. Mine was like Greek, Romanian-ish. All my Italian friends have the same story. All my Jewish friends have the same stories. It's absolutely hilarious how that shit works. And then you have the families that are like 10 generations America, and it's just like, you made it, night. Like,
yes, boring white people. Like,
right.
You need some spice in your life, Jesus.
Right, exactly. Throw a pepper on that, you'll be better.
Yeah.
What other events or anything do you have coming up? Do you have anything other than Retro World Expo? Do you have
I think Retro World Expo. I might do a local Comic-Con. I did it as here's a funny story. So I did a Comic-Con panel last year for a local Comic-Con in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and my panel was at 5 p.m. And I was like, okay, I'll just get there later in the afternoon. And the event organizer was like, no. Can you be there at 9? I'm like, 9? I'm like, yeah, I guess. So I was like, do I really need to be there at 9? He's like, yeah, just get there at 9. So I got there at 9, and they let me in, and the show didn't open until 10. So I walked around. I literally bought 2 games because there was 3 video game vendors, and then everything else was Comic-Con stuff. I don't know anything about comics. I don't do comics. I don't do anime. I literally only do video games. So I remember at 10:30, after 30 minutes that they'd been open, I went and sat in my car, and I was just smoking a cigarette. I was like, there's no fucking way I'm making it till 5 o'clock. I'm just gonna go home. I'll make up an excuse and say I got sick or something. I cannot fucking do this. And luckily, a YouTube friend from Wilmington that I had never met, but which is down by the coast, he wanted to go to it, and so he ended up coming up there, and then that made it more bearable. So I'm not going to go as a guest. I might just pop in there. There's another event called Super Famicom in Greensboro, North Carolina, which is also local to me. I may pop in at that. I don't really understand. It started as a Smash tournament, but now it's a Nintendo related conference thing. I still don't get it, so they kind of need to clarify. But yeah, as far as this year, that's probably gonna wrap it up. Is Retro World Expo. There was one in Syracuse. I forget the name of it. Retro something or another. It's a pretty sizable con. They wanted me to be a guest there, but I've been taking a lot of time off of work to go to different conventions and stuff. So I'm quickly running out of PTO. So it's I got to kind of limit it here until at least next year when it relapses. So.
Gotcha. Now, you mentioned Smash tournaments in your area. Is that something that's kind of big in North Carolina, or is it just smatterings here and there?
It's, I guess it's big enough to where they can host a con based around it, because, like I said, I'm pretty sure that is what the whole con. Oh, see, now they've changed it. So now, oh God, and why is this 3 days? Why is this con 3 days? And so, okay, last year was their first year, evidently. And so they this is their second year, and they've gone from 1 day to 3 days, and yeah, they're doing Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But yeah, Smash Brothers. I guess not, because like I said, this was originally a Smash contest that's been relocated. But no, I mean, okay, so I went to Southeast Game Exchange in August, which was in South Carolina, and they actually had a whole room dedicated to Smash Brothers. It was at a hotel, and me and Scott Squatch were like the special guests or whatever, and I'm like, nobody cares about us, nobody's gonna come see us. But it actually ended up being a really fun, just 1 day event, like really good. But they had like a whole room dedicated to Smash in the hotel, and it was always pretty busy. I think Smash is just universal, and it's funny because I don't really get into Smash. Like it's too much of like a twitchy fighter for me. It's like I don't know.
It was never my favorite. I enjoyed it, but it was never like if I have a limited time to play a game, that's not going to be one of the ones I picked up. No disrespect to the guys that love Smash, just to its own,
And there's like so many little intricacies and like like these people like know the actual damage, like what it's going to do before it even happens, like the percentage, and it's like, okay, no, you're too hardcore for me.
It's intense. Yeah, I'm always curious about that, because growing up, I mean, around Bridgeport, we had, we had the Trumbull Mall, the FYE arcade, and then I think there was one on Main Street down there, which I only went to a few times, and then it was just like your local pizza place, right down the street from me had a Mortal Kombat machine and everything, but it was never a huge crowd of people, and it wasn't until just recently when I moved to New York where I started going in, like in Brooklyn, there's just a huge gaming scene, and it's neat, and it's kind of strange, because you look online and you see 50 people, and whenever, there's a camera in the back of the room, 50 people doesn't look like a lot, and then you walk in the door and it's like jam-packed and, elbow to elbow, and everybody's really into it. So I was just wondering, where else in the country is there like a scene like this? Obviously a lot of it has to do with population. You got 7 million people all in a closet, then there's going to be more there. But yeah, I was always curious about that, because I enjoyed that stuff a lot more than I ever would have thought. And it's weird, you try to say something like, oh yeah, well, everybody in the same room is all into the same thing, everybody's gunning. I guess if people are into sports, they would understand the reference, but if people aren't into sports and haven't been to like a football game or a baseball game, it's really hard to explain that weird feeling when, everybody's into the same crap. So.
All right.
Well, I mean, this was a blast. Thank you so much for doing this. Do you have anything? Did I forget to ask anything? I'm pretty sure I covered everything I wanted to. I asked. The only thing I wanted to make sure to get was the latest con appearance, which we got. So I think we covered all grounds, right?
I did just find out that the place I was going to eat pizza at in Bridgeport is no longer there.
Which place?
Pizza Time.
Oh, really?
On Madison Ave, dude. That was my spot. I used to go there because when my mom got remarried, my real dad also lived in Bridgeport, and we all just lived in Bridgeport, and we all got along. It was kind of strange, but so like I would go to Pizza Time with literally my stepdad and my real dad, and like they all knew the owners there, and it looks like they've closed. That's so depressing. I wanted to go eat there because I love their food. But yeah, no, I think we covered everything. I think.
Look, I got to do this, and I know everybody that's not from Bridgeport doesn't give a shit, but did you ever have a donut from Pacelli's Bakery?
Where was it?
It was off of Madison, and the donuts were like this big, and they were filled with jelly, and it was the greatest. When you bit into it, before you even swallowed, you could feel your arteries hardening. It was the greatest thing ever.
I don't know if I did.
Oh, yeah, they closed like 10 years ago, but that was... I just remember, like, from the time I was, like, 5 years old, and I held one in my hands like this to the time, I was old enough to drive there myself. It's just, like, I've never had a donut that tastes like that before. I'm convinced they just filled it with whatever is the worst things in the world for you. It just pumped it into your veins. It was awesome, so...
Well, at least Massimo's is still in Bridgeport.
Yes.
That's good. I used to eat at Massimo's. Okay, yeah. So now I'm not too sad. I can go there.
All right, sorry for the Bridgeportism, people. It's a weird thing. If you didn't live in that city, it's a very weird camaraderie of strangeness. But yeah, so I feel like that's a perfect description of Bridgeport. By the way, a weird camaraderie of strangeness.
No, yeah, I mean that is perfect.
All right, man. Well, thanks so much for everything, and I'll keep watching your videos, and I'll definitely let everybody know whenever you have something relevant to the retro stuff posted, and yeah, hopefully we'll do this again sometime.
Yeah, for sure, bud.
All
Thanks for
right,
having me on.
take care, man.
All right, you too.